Hello YouTube, welcome back to the Basement Card Collector. Today's video we are going to be doing a video response for our good buddy Rob over at Cash Cards. He recently just hit the 300 subscriber mark. Very cool. Actually, as I'm recording this, he is almost to 400. Right now he sits at 394. Rob, you're killing it, man. Congrats. Your channel is relatively new to me, but I have watched since I found it through somebody, I don't recall, but I just really enjoy watching what you pick up. He's a Reds super fan and really cool collection. Picked up some autographs, and he's just supports a lot of other channels. Just give him a look if you are not familiar with his channel, but I'll leave a link. All right. For his contest, for his giveaway, he's asking for us to make a video talking about a home run that we watched either live in person or on television. And today's my home runs, it's actually going to be plural. My home runs that we're going to talk about today. If you're a baseball collector from my age and you are watching this video, then you are definitely aware of what we're going to talk about today. And I know you remember where you were when you saw the two players hit their home runs, and we'll talk about them in just a second. If you take a look here on the stage here, we've got my Mr. Andre Dawson on the 89. He's there for every video. But the other four guys, I wonder if you can see the connection between Roger Maris, Babe Ruth, Mike Wazowski, and Bud Selig. All four cards are autographed. The Babe Ruth is a granddaughter, Linda Ruth Tosetti, and the Roger Maris archive card is actually signed by his son, Randy Maris. Give you a second to think about the four cards you see there and why in the world, how does Mike Wazowski tie into this little VR? So here you go. Back in 1998, I was a freshman off at college, and my roommate and the whole floor, really, we couldn't get to the TVs fast enough because we wanted to see if these two players had hit home runs in the great summer of 1998. And the two players we're talking about today are, Mark McGwire and Sammy Sosa. And like I said, and this is just a set from Pacific, and they actually have the dates. September 25th, Sammy hit his 66th as a bomb. Look at that, 462 feet. And then McGwire hit the 70th home run, and you can see it was very, actually one of his shorter ones there, 370 feet. And so the connection between our four cards back here, before we start talking, I just have a couple cards of each of the players here. Back in 1927, Babe Ruth hit 60 home runs, which stood for a long time. Well, right until Mr. Maris there beside him hit 61, several years later, of course, but that 61 really stood until 1998. And these two really rivals, if you think about the Cardinals and the Cubs, they just battled. And if you were around and you were of age, you couldn't wait to see how many home runs these two guys had hit. And you just knew they hit one. The question was just kind of how many. And so what I have here is, let me show you a couple things here. That summer, a few years before that, the MLB baseball had been on a strike, which is why we pulled in this guy, Mr. Bud Selig. He was the commissioner when the summer of '98 was going on, and we actually sent this out TTM, and he signed a few things for me. I have a couple commissioner autographs, which is just kind of a cool little side set I was working on. But he was the man in charge, and sadly, later on in life, they had this steroid era. Well, he was kind of the guy in charge there, and many think that he was aware of what was going on, but because of the two sluggers here, people kind of think he turned a blind eye, let happen what happened, and everybody was drawn back into the game. You couldn't wait to get, like I said, to watch it, to read about it. That was really only two options in 1998. The internet wasn't everywhere, and not everybody had these phones where you could look up anything on demand, and So we just kind of had to wait and see, or watch it live, or check it out on SportsCenter at night. Well, Bud Selig said, hey, this is pretty good. Everybody's hitting home runs. Even ESPN got into the game, chicks dig the long ball. And that's just kind of true, okay? Home runs, even today, they just kind of drive everybody. And so there you go. These guys hit some home runs. Well, later on, somewhere else down the road, now, not Mike Wazowski, but this is Billy Crystal. He plays the voice of Mike Wazowski. Great movie, Monsters, Inc. But Billy Crystal was the director of that movie 61, and that was about Mickey Mantle and Roger Maris back in the day, chasing Babe Ruth. And I know you folks watching this know that, but this is one of the coolest things I have ever received in the mail. Again, I wrote a TTM letter to Mr. Randy Maris. Here's my letter. And I asked a few questions about, hey, Randy, you know, how do you think the movie did? Did the movie 61 really tell the story of your dad and Mickey's quest to kind of, you know, defeat the Babe and all the ghost of the Babe and all that good stuff? And so here's my letter. And then check out what he wrote. This is one of the cooler things. Jason, sorry it took me a while. My wife and I were on a cruise and a vacation for a few weeks. We loved the movie 61 and felt it was pretty accurate. And I think Billy Crystal did a great job. Glad you enjoyed it. All my best, Randy Maris. I mean, how cool is that? Okay, he apologized for taking a while. It's like, you have to apologize for nothing. I'm just a guy in a basement writing you a letter. So he signed this letter. I love how he talked about 61, and I just happened to have sent off to Billy Crystal soon, so I have a Babe Ruth granddaughter autograph. Kind of ties that 60 in. Here's the 61. And then in that summer of 1998, like I mentioned, this is the home run I'm entering for the VR for Rob. That 60-second home run, and you guys have all watched it. Like I said, I found this in a garage sale find. It's kind of in a big screw down case. You can see that. And it actually lists all 62 of his home runs. So again, I do have a collection of Mark McGwire. He's not like my favorite player of all time or anything, but I do have a really good number of his cards. And again, if you were watching baseball back then, it's just, you were rooting for one of these two guys, and I'll be honest, I was rooting for the Cubbies, so I loved Sammy and was hoping that he would be the first to break it. But in that summer, both of the guys here both went past the 61, and so later on, of course, some things came out, and it's not such a popular two set of players we're showing here. But man, seeing that home run against the Cubs of all people, and he hit a rocket that just cleared the left field fence. And actually, if you guys remember, he was so excited and so pumped as he rounded first base. If I had some editing skills, I would put the video in right here, but I don't. But if you go back and look, he actually missed first base. Did you guys catch that? He was like running, he was watching, he was hopping, and he actually had to go back, tag first base. And I think he got like a high five from Mark Grace actually on the way back towards second base. And it's just one of those things, I'm like, oh my gosh, we're watching history. And then if you also remember that video, McGwire went to the stands and the Maris family was sitting like front row. They kind of traveled with him for those few games until he broke the record, if you remember. And Randy Maris was there, and I think he had a couple other sons, and I think the late Roger Maris, his wife, and their sons were all in attendance that day. And so it just was a really cool thing, and it really stinks that they're now in the steroid era, and it's just, I just don't know how I feel about that. Like I said, Mr. Selig, people say he knew and didn't care because fans were back. Well, fast forward a few years later, Bud Selig is elected into the Hall of Fame, yet the guys that were hitting the bombs and bringing the people to the seats, they kind of get this blackballed label for, granted, I'm not saying it's right, but I'm just saying they kind of had a part in why he's a Hall of Famer, yet they kind of got shunned. So, and to kind of wrap up this little VR for Rob, I found a couple cool cards of the two players here. And again, this is the 70th home run card. I get it, 62 was the record, but 70 stood for a minute. until Barry Bonds broke it with 73. There's a cool little card. And my buddy Shane over at Shoebox Legends is really into a Aaron Judge kind of subset collection with cards depicting the 62 home runs that he hit. And I just like this leaderboard too. There's 70, there's 66. Look at Greg Vaughn. He hit 50 home runs and finished 3rd. Just a cool card. That's on the Topps Chrome. And one of the coolest cards, nothing to do with the home run, but just check out the shine on this thing. Lords of the Diamond. It's a crazy cut at the top, crazy refractory feel. Lords of the Diamond, Big Mac. And we're going to close out with these last 3 cards for Mr. Sammy. Here's the same set. That was his high number of 66. And I've got 2 more cards here. Just some really cool cards from those late 90s. This is a 2000. It's just a really cool photo. And the last card I'd like to put on, this is actually before, this is 1996 Pinnacle Power. I mean, how cool is that? Looks like Home Run Derby is what it looks like. It's got the hat on, kind of like the alternate jersey and spikes kind of thing, but that's 1996. And so there you go, Rob. Man, I'm super happy for you. You're almost to 400. You'll probably be there before you make your next video. I'm sure you deserve it. Check out his channel. Really cool. And just like to thank you, Rob. Thank you for watching. We'll see you next time.